All right, episode 2 with the Tunic Counter Gamers. Gear up, preparing for a new Flesh and Blood set. And so today we're going to dive into the strategic, mental, and community-driven ways to prepare for a new Flesh and Blood set. Very topical when we take to the high seas. Whether you're a seasoned pro or new to the game, we got something for you, and we'd love to hear your feedback. So my name's Will.
Yep. Ning.
Hey, Trevor.
All right, and what did we learn since last week, guys?
Well, we learned that whatever the heck I was talking about last week with card setup is not correct. So that's a good start, right? Where I think last week we were saying, hey, when you start before any turns are taken, what are the steps to get there, right? Where you present your hero, and then you kind of say, all right, and then you determine turn order, and then you kind of put all your cards out like your sideboard, and then you before what I was saying was, oh, you need to lay out your equipment and your weapons out, and then you can start sideboarding. But after some research, we figured out actually the deck being shuffled and your equipment and all that kind of go out all at the same time. So there's no extra strategizing from seeing the layout of your opponent's equipment suite.
Mm-hmm.
So the only information that you should be presenting before you roll the dice to see who goes first or second is what hero you're playing. And usually it's presented with a hero on a stack of cards, and then you look at your opponent and you're saying, roll to see who goes first or second, and then you roll. Then you go ahead and allocate your equipment after that and flip all your equipment over. Right, so nothing's face up. You don't want to give any information to your opponent until the actual game begins. Mm-hmm. Is that what I'm hearing correctly?
Well, that, and I think what I was insinuating last time was you would also be able to see, does my opponent have only one weapon, or do they have potentially two weapons, or potentially a weapon in an offhand? So all that is also not information you would get until everybody has already decided on their sideboarding. I was wrong. I'm sorry.
No, hey, no. This is a journey and learning podcast. And man, first week we hit it out the park.
This is still incorrect information that I've been holding close to my heart for the past year,
Well, I mean, if we even learn more about not sharing information with our opponent, like information that can actually give them an edge, like, hey, what your equipment suite looks like, then that is an advantage that you don't want to give them, right? So we're learning it now. So I know I was taking a little bit of care with this week, and quickly, I also realized I did forget my spring tunic counter, my force counter. Well, it was
round one.
No, it was actually doing pretty good. I was doing pretty good for the most part, except when there was a lot of side chatter, the store got noisy, and then I got distracted. And the tight confined space makes me so uncomfortable, right? That it's just like I'm thinking about, oh man, I'm just so tightly packed like a sardine in a can. It's like, oh, I forgot my tunic counter. So it's good to know, and realize that my triggers, like the things I have to be aware of, is when this happens, maybe I need to slow down my game a little bit more and just make sure that everything's correct. So, we're always refining that process. What did you guys learn since last week? Other than Ning's
my blunder, my incorrect understanding of how to start a game. I think I need to learn a little bit better on when to use equipment is kind of what I learned about myself more so than the game. I think there was a game when I was playing against Arachne as Aurora, and kind of close to the beginning of the game, I went ahead and used my Face Purgatory and get the effect. Essentially, they played a Leave No Witness, and they had one card in hand. And so my thought at the time was, value-wise, even if I blocked with everything that I needed to block, and then also draw a card, I could get the same amount of value, or maybe peek out a little bit more if they lost that card, and then I could kind of gain tempo on it. But thinking back on it, probably was too soon for me to do that. But also the tempo from the beginning of the game can be pretty easily taken back towards the end, because then I think if tempo is taken at the beginning, you can kind of like wait it out until a good turn happens and then you can take it back. But if you're closer to the end and you take tempo, then it's a lot harder to take it back from your opponent, and I think that matters a lot more.
It sounds like future podcast topics right there, Ning. It's a whole bunch of gems in what you unpacked there.
Pretty much.
Trevor, what did you learn since last week?
I learned Dio still goes pretty fast. She's a really, really strong deck. I'm trying to pick that back up for the new Mechanologist coming out.
Mm-hmm.
And coming off of like playing Florian for the last like 3 months or whatever. And I don't know, I had a game against local Thomas, and he was also on an aggro deck, and I was like, man, this is a long game. We hit like turn 6 or 7.
Wow.
And I was like, this is a short game. And then that's coming because I've been playing all these mid-range heroes, and then my other game was like 4 turns and just goes fast.
I know that was what we learned last week, but let's talk about, we have a new set coming out. Everyone's on the hype train for it, and we figured it'd be topical not to really jump into the new set yet. There will be some of that in the future, but really to talk about how we would prepare for a new set coming out in general. So we know it's announced, right? Hey, it's coming out. And good thing about LSS is they do these things every so often. We know that they have a set time, then months go by, and then new set releases. And then in this time frame before that new set actually releases, a whole bunch of stuff happens. And as a new player or as a person learning to grow and get better at the game, we figured that this would be a great topic to kind of jump into. Like, I know there's always shakeups with every new set that comes out. Recently, we had the Assassin, we had Warrior, we had Ninja. I mean, all these cards, and even before then, like every time a new set comes out, it's always a meta shakeup. But before we get into that piece, let's say we hear rumors that they're starting something out on the horizon. How do you guys prepare? Hunted release, and we didn't know about High Seas yet. How would you prepare for the next set?
We, as in the general communities or people that I talk to anyway, when kind of speculating, first of all, what's potentially going to come out, and then if I'm interested in jumping on that new hero potentially. So like, for example, before High Seas came out, I know Will and I did a lot of speculation on, all right, what's coming out next? And so part of that is like, all right, let's pull up that schedule, what has come out in the past year or two, and then see if there's some level of pattern, or just kind of say, oh, it's been a while since we've last had Mechanologist come out, for example, and lo and behold, it's been a little over a year and it's time for Mechanologist to come back out again. Yeah. And then I think once they kind of announced just the title of the new set, then there becomes like, oh, all right, themes. We got to think about themes. What's going on with themes? And I know that just the title came out and it was High Seas. Everybody was like, oh, pirates, great. And so now the question is, all right, what does that mean? And so there's speculation on that, right? Where it's like, all right, pirates gold. So anything that's gold related, maybe we'll want. I know just from fantasy wise, you have all sorts of pirates. Pirates can be like brutish people who like to gamble a lot. So maybe chaos is coming out a little bit more. Brute maybe coming out a little bit more. They all have pistols. That feels Mechanologist-y, or rangers, things like that. And I think at some point, that's the speculation part is more fun. And then you just, for me anyway, it's just kind of, all right, let's start looking at TCG Player or whatever and see what cards are cheap and may or may not be relevant before they even announce the actual heroes or classes or whatever. No.
So I know you said a couple good points, but like we spec'd before we even heard any information about High Seas. We had the name, and then we're like, okay, what could this possibly be? But even before we got to the name of the set, we were also like, what hero classes, what talents could be using support currently? That's kind of where the grand view is like, okay, well, we just had this hunted set. What do you think the next set's going to be? Because, we like to talk about the future set, right? So I know we were talking about what potential classes could be supported. I know we were throwing out, We know
Like
brutes need help. Yeah,
merchants or
merchant. Right. We have maybe
Mm,
even illusionist.
alchemists.
Right.
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
I was
yeah.
thinking,
yeah,
oh,
I can
with
see illusionist.
yeah. So we were thinking about that. Trevor, how do you like? Let's say Hunted just came out and they either right before they announced High Seas the name or showed the
Mhm.
teaser. How did you? What were you thinking about? Like as far as this goes.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. Like right after Hunted came out, I was not thinking about next set. I was focused on
Mm-hmm.
like Hunted, like in that period. Just like what was happening then. Like we had Battle Hardened coming out, and then Calling was like right then.
Hmm.
So I was like focusing like, okay, like how's the meta shake up like right now with these cards that came out. But then
Mm-hmm.
I really didn't cook it all until like we saw the logo and then pirates and stuff. But then
Yeah, yeah,
start
yeah.
like Ranger, Mech, Brute. Like I honestly thought we were getting an illusionist, and I would have cried a little bit, but
So why did you think
I
illusionist?
I didn't think we were gonna get Necromancer, honestly. So I just
yeah,
thought like
yep.
we were gonna get like a like sea witch kind of
Okay.
person, like summoning like things like tentacles or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
like because I
Mm-hmm.
felt like they would kind of do that instead. But I don't know. Necromancer seems really cool. So I'm
Yeah.
excited we got that instead.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Illusionist adjacent. Maybe
It's
like
basically.
Yeah, it's gonna be. I'm hoping
Yeah,
it's different. I don't know how much we want to talk about it now, but
yeah, 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 yeah.
So for those people that are already playing the game, LSS does a great job at giving out a lot of clues through either the previous set or through their dev
Mhm.
notes, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
I know Brian Gotling, I probably mispronounced his name, so correct me if
Mhm.
I'm wrong, but
Golly.
he said Call to the Grave was a card that they had to keep an eye on, right? And
Mm-hmm.
that card did scream like graveyard mechanics. A lot of people were looking at it, okay, this
Mhm.
card is strong now. Why do we have to keep an eye on it? And he said that on either the podcast he visited or on the Dev Talks, right? And then there's also
Mm-hmm.
all these pirate artwork that was coming out. So a lot of people were specking, right? Oh, maybe we have a pirate set coming out. I think me and Ning were
Mm-hmm.
thinking, oh, we got Savage Lands coming out because brutes really need help as well. So, but
Mm-hmm.
I didn't expect
Mhm.
pirates. I was hyped for pirates, but I was really
Yeah.
thinking a trip to the Savage Lands. So it's
Mhm.
kind of funny how that goes. Where it's me and Ning went to Memphis, and I think you were there too, Trevor, right? You made day
Mhm.
two,
Yep.
right? So
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
our rooming situation, once we're like all hyped on the hunted. We were talking about the next set just because that's what do you think is going
Mm-hmm.
to be the next set? We love this set, right? What's next, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that's where we already started talking about it. It's more important to kind of get ahead of get ahead of the set when we're talking about the price of cards. Because
Yeah.
as soon as
Mhm.
spoilers hit, the first announcements and those classes are actually announced, man, those price of those cards kind of skyrocket. So it's all
Mhm.
that speculation.
Oh yeah, no, it's really tough to speculate though. Like when you know so little, like you could
Oh yeah,
definitely
yeah,
just
yeah.
make a bad call there, right? Like I don't know.
Right.
Like really, we don't know much.
Yeah. But I think the biggest takeaway is to look at what class needs support, seeing how it would fit thematically.
Mhm.
And I think LSS
Yeah.
has been doing a pretty good job at following the classes they want to achieve. They have a list, and they've been slowly going down that list, checking off all these boxes. And Necromancer is actually on that list. It goes to your point, it's all speculation, and only the true credible source would be from Legend Story Studios, LSS, right? Like when they either
Mm-hmm.
announce it or when they give those clues, because they will let things slip. It might not be outright. You might have to infer some information, but you go back and you're like, oh, that did make sense. And I think this came out when, again, I can't remember who it was from LSS was mentioning the Arachnes. And he slipped up and said it
Mm-hmm.
in
Yeah,
the
that was
plural
Brian Gottlieb.
situation. Yeah, and
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
you didn't say the Arachne, right? So
Yeah. I think he literally said he was gonna make a set with 6 arachnes because James White left him alone, and everyone thought he was
Thought it was a
joking.
joke. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's pretty good.
but he
funny
said
guy.
that a year, maybe 9 months before the Hunted actually was announced, right?
I know they generally take about 2 years out for each set. To be fair, like
Hmm.
they've been working on these for a while. So
So to Trevor's point, it's good to speculate, but yeah, don't put a lot of stock in it. Do put your ears to the
Mhm.
grindstone if you're trying to get ahead of the price of cards and say, hey, what card or what class or what talent needs support? And if you're trying to keep your
Yeah.
costs low, that's a good way of trying to pick up those fables or legendaries. Because, once the class is announced, some of these fables and legendaries get incredibly pricey. And I'm mentioning New
Mhm.
Horizon because I think I picked up that card for $70 and now it's $180.
I think a good tip would just be like if you think like you're gonna be interested in like a class like Ranger or Brute, you could pick up like staples when they are
Relatively
low
low.
because they will see play eventually, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you could do that. Like I mean, if you're, I mean, not to like speculate super far, but like probably getting Brute stuff pretty soon, So if you were looking into Brute, they're in a pretty low spot. You can pick up like your scabs and like essentials, and eventually, they're good cards. Like they'll get played when Brute's good, and then you can sell out or play them if you want to.
And Light and Shadow will come out again soon too.
Yeah, true.
I know. Well, in some dev talk, they were saying that maybe not this year, but definitely the year after, it'd be Monarch 3.0 or something or other. I don't know.
How about for new players? Like, so I know in my case, I was like, oh, I should just wait until Heavy Hitters comes out, and that's when I'll jump into the set. Right. And that's like maybe a month and a half out. So I'm just going to buy my time, kind of keep my eyes on things and really kind of join during the pre-release. If you're a new player and you just heard the high seas announcement, what would you recommend?
Yeah, I would recommend to get in early and like start learning the game, to see if you really enjoy it, right? If you were completely brand new, never played before, right? Because going to Armory is just like getting in there, getting some reps, like learning fundamentals and stuff. That's how you're going to have a really more enjoyable experience, right? Because you'll be in with like nobody has seen these cards before. With the way LSS does it, we get all the cards like 2 weeks prior to like the set dropping. So everybody's cooking, everyone's trying to have fun. Like you can really do whatever you want. Like there's so many weird cards that they print, and no one's going to be expecting them. So you can get some pretty like janky fun decks, like pretty early. But if you're coming in like completely blind to the pre-release and it's like your first time playing, you can still have fun doing that, but it's going to be more of a learning experience rather than like experimenting.
Yeah, so and I think if you're coming in specifically because you're like, oh, high seas is a thing and you're excited about that. I mean, I think the easiest way would be to look at the heroes that are coming out. And so if you're interested in Puffin or Marlin, for example, then it's like, all right, go to Armory and then see if you can borrow a Mechnologist deck or borrow a Ranger deck. So yeah, at least get to experience some of those cards that will be class relevant, just so you have a good understanding of, oh, this is what this class feels like, or these are the kinds of cards that they do. Like, we were saying before, like, oh yeah, Flesh and Blood's a back and forth. You have your reactions and stuff. Well, depending on who you play, maybe reactions aren't really a thing, right? Like Rangers, for example, they just like to front pump most things. And then if you're Riptide, you have your traps and your defense reactions. But like Azalea doesn't necessarily do that kind of gameplay. It's mostly just front pumps.
And front pumps is buffing your attack before you actually send the attack, right? Usually a high damage, we call high ceiling.
Going tall, yeah.
Going tall, that's it. Yeah. Thank you, Ning. So yeah, I would highly recommend don't do what I did, because I feel like I started a few weeks before Heavy Hitters because I figured I wanted to get at least know the meta, know the people that I was going to play with, and hopefully like get that learning curve out that way before the first game or the first pre-release. And I'm glad I did. I wish I showed up earlier and see if people have a deck to borrow, but if not, then they have these Armory decks now that are great way to get into the game, and just play that. You don't even have to invest too much more into it to get it to be a competitive deck. Just go in and learn the fundamentals, knowing that you're going to get your teeth kicked in for the first few games you play, because when the new set launches, usually there's at least 1 or 2 heroes in that set that could be supported with all the cards in that set, right? Why prep for the new set like so early? Like what do you think do you think it really matters, or do you think you could just kind of like go into it and pre-release if you're an experienced player and play? I know some of our more experienced players have done this in the past, because unfortunately work life gets in the way of our hobby, right? And so they'll come in blind to the whole set, never looked at a card, and they're just going rip packs and build the deck, the seal deck. That's when you compile a 40 card deck, right, from 8 booster packs, right? And then is it 30?
Yeah.
All right. So 30 cards. We're going to edit this one out, maybe. But 30 card deck.
Oh, when you get it wrong, we'll edit it out.
Okay, we'll keep it in, guys. All right, we'll keep it in.
Wow.
30 card exact deck with 8 booster packs. Why prep for their set earlier? Like especially with spoilers as it comes out.
I feel like you have two different kinds of mentalities. It depends on like I know for our pre-releases, it doesn't really matter how many times you win or lose, right? There's no if you win more, you get extra packs for pre-release specifically, right?
Yeah, I don't think so.
I know, but like if you go to a world premiere, maybe that's a different intention because the more you win, the more prizes you can get. And so from that perspective, I think it makes a lot more sense to, oh, let me read these cards, and the hype and stuff. So you might do that anyway, but let me read these cards and make sure I have some sort of game plan if I play sealed or whatever. But with pre-release, I generally like to try to stay as spoiler free as possible so that I do get that experience of opening the packs and be like, what is this? What am I even looking at? And I know that in itself is a little bit disadvantageous because you only have a set amount of time to decide what kind of deck you want to build during a pre-release event, and then you have to build it. But I don't know, I think that's part of the fun of a pre-release specifically. And besides, I feel like pre-releases are definitely a lot more casual, so you get the option to, oh, I ran out of time building a deck, I made this really awful deck, let me get destroyed in 10 minutes, and now I have 25 minutes to make a new deck.
Man, I go completely different than that. I read everything and digest everything as it comes out. I cannot wait until the new cards. Trevor, you too?
Yeah. Like honestly, like burn out. I'm on the Fabry page like every day, refreshing during spoiler season, bro. I can't get enough.
That's so funny.
Yeah, I feel like when you go into the pre-release, you kind of have an inkling of what these cards would do. Like, and that's the point of spoiler season. Spoiler season is usually for those that have never done a pre-release before, never hit like a announcement of the new cards as come out. We call spoiler season the 2 to 3 week period leading up to the new set's actual world premiere, which is 1 week before the actual
release.
Yeah, the actual release where you have the pre-release weekend. So it's usually two weeks, world premiere, then
it's world premiere and then pre-release and then the actual release.
The following weekend. Yeah.
Okay, so say that timeline from when do the spoilers actually start coming out?
I would say about a month ahead of world premiere, but it's still relatively slow by that point. I think it really starts to pick up 2 weeks before world premiere.
Okay.
Yeah, and something they've been doing recently, like since Rosetta, is we still don't get all the cards by the world premiere, right? Like you go into the world premiere not knowing, everything. Like all the Majestics or what. Yeah. Like I think they kept a lot of the comments or something and rares hidden.
Yeah, I think when Mist Veil was happening, because it was the first time it was in Japan and all that, they wanted to build super hype, so they basically released everything. But then with Rosetta, like I think they even kept some of the commons or rares non-spoiled, so you still open it and still like, oh, what is this? Why is this in here? But yeah. I don't know. I think it's pretty neat that they don't spoil literally everything, so you do get some surprises. And then I know, like when we were in Tampa, because everything wasn't spoiled yet, everybody's opening is like, what is this? And then people will like post it on the Flesh and Blood Discord channels, like, oh, this is another one. Oh, this is another one.
It's a super cool experience.
Yeah. And the hype is real. Like it is tangible when you get into that the building and you're about to crack packs and build your deck and fight for fun on that night, of pre-release or that day. It is fun. We build up to the pre-release, that's the spoiler season, and they will release cards in a slow trickle up until the world premiere. And then world premiere will have the influx of all the information. And so that goes into the day of. And again, you have expectations what these heroes do or how they operate, but that's not necessarily something you should go into that day and thinking this is a hard and fast, written in concrete rule. Because I know sometimes you'll have a preconception and you get into the day and it's completely not really viable or accurate, and so you're forcing cards into a certain thing. And I know that, and that's where Ning's saying like the dangers of kind of going in with the card knowledge could work against you, where he rather just go there and kind of fix it on the fly and make things work,
just have
right?
a good time. Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely a time to like experiment, right? Like if you get like a bunch of like a weird card and you think you have some synergy to make it work, like just send it. Like everyone there is just kind of trying to have fun, and it's it's sealed, it's new cards.
Yeah.
People want to see crazy stuff, so just try it out. You might hit something, find gold.
To bring it back to the kind of real world connection, what have you guys learned in the past sets that you could take into the next set as far as how do you prep now? Like, because I know for me, it's like a building block. I know my first set, I had no clue what I was doing. I went in kind of blind, cracked packs, prayed to God, whatever, right? And then Lady Luck, whatever, right? But every so often now, I'm kind of having this refined technique, right, to get ready for the next set as they come up. And that's kind of where this podcast is coming out, like, because it does start this much in advance. Right, so what do you guys do? What have you learned in the past that helps you prep for the future set release? Like anything you guys do early? I know Ning's like, we're ballers. We're going to go there and
Look. All I'm saying is, if we're not going to an official tournament for this, might as well go in blind, because it doesn't matter really. But if we're actually fighting for prizes, I may do a little studying or two. I mean, when we were going to Memphis, right? The calling in Memphis. For the most part, I still wasn't able to attend. Well, I wasn't able to attend any of the pre-releases or anything, and so it was a 7-hour drive. I researched for 7 hours, right, to figure out what was happening. So yeah, I don't know. I think if there are no stakes, might as well just go in there completely blind and be like, oh wow, that's interesting.
And Trevor, how about you? You've been playing for a lot longer than us. Anything you've learned with all these pre-releases you attended?
Yeah, I mean, like when I first started out, I mean, I'm trying to take the game like a little bit more competitively, like trying to travel for some more events like Battle Harden's Callings and stuff. And like I think I'll be in Vegas the week after pre-release for like high seas. I think I'm maybe doing calling or side events or something. I haven't decided.
Nice.
But yeah. So like I do actively like really try to like understand the cards more. I try to make it out to pre-releases and like still like experimenting, but I definitely have like a more competitive like focus. Like I will try something like weird just in case like it works out, but like I do want to like try and figure out like what the best deck I can make there is, and like what I'll have like ideas of what I think will work, and then test it out. And if it doesn't work, I'll probably like like rebuild it. We actually, for the Hunted, me, Paul and Evan and Noah, we would, because we were all going to Memphis as well, would like take our pre-release decks and just like bring them home, like the same card pool, and like try to make a better deck with those cards. And then so like really opposite of Ning, like we're trying to like min-max this like for fun.
Well, again, to be fair, I said if there were stakes to be had, that's a very different story.
yeah, like definitely, right? So like but then like every pre-release I've done prior, I think I kind of went like with Ning. Like I would be paying attention to spoilers, but like we would get there and we would see what happened. Like it'd be cool if we won. Get some prizes or whatever, but it's just like at that point it was just kind of like for fun.
Yeah, I think we always have a hero that we kind of gravitate toward when new sets announced or released. Oh, I hope I crack this pack that's full of these heroes cards so I can play them, because that's who I really like. And for those that don't know, I'm partial to Gravy Bones, the Necromancer, and it's not because of his card pool or his playstyle. I just like his name. I know people hate his name, but I'm all about the visual impact.
You're wrong.
I mean, there's so much. I think so too. Plus, Gravy Bones to me sounds like a cat's name, right? And that's always a check mark in my book. Regardless of how you choose your hero, that's who I'm favoring.
Yeah. It's like an actual dog treat name. Gravy Bones is a brand.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
That's funny because, bones, right? Dogs like bones, I guess.
Yeah.
But I know sometimes as content creators release set primers and tier lists, I actually do listen to those too. I like viewing those. I think they are helpful. Again, they're not set in stone. They're giving their opinion, and you can have a difference of opinion, right? And I actually like to play the game because I'll give a shout out to Arsenal Pass. They had a really in-depth, very extensive pre-release primer about the Hunted.
Yep.
Right now, on some of those cards, I might not agreed with the value they place on these cards. But
Mm-hmm.
I did want to go into the tournament or the pre-release and say, okay, whose opinion was actually more correct, right? And the reason why. And it's a little game I play, a little thought exercise, and it helps me kind of sharpen, identifying these cards for the next set when they release. Because I sometimes will overvalue one card and undervalue another, and then come the set of pre-release to play a few games, and all of a sudden it's flippy floppy. For Rosetta, it was the amount of healing that actually was good in that game. When going into it, a lot of the verbiage around the room was, "Oh, healing's not going to be that much of a great thing the first day." But after the first day, it was a huge boon to have healing in your deck, or for most pre-releases. It's how you can mitigate that arcane damage that was come through. And I think for the hunted, it was kind of like, oh, I think this hero is going to be broken, right? And I think like we'll say Fang. Fang's going to be the easiest to build. He's going to be able to floor everyone when he goes into. That was what the room was saying, but we found that it was a lot more equally dispersed when we actually were playing the game. So it's always funny to hear how other podcasters or other people create these primers and tier lists, and it could be wrong, but they do have thoughts that kind of elicit a reaction, like, oh, I wonder if that's true. I wonder what my gut feeling is. So it's always good to kind of play that back and forth.
Yeah, Arsenal and Pass definitely helped me a lot while we were doing that big drive, listening and then valuing. Oh, this is what they grade, is what they don't grade. Yeah, as far as like you're talking about how in high seas, and there's always like somebody you try to grab that you may gravitate towards during a sealed event. I for whatever reason, I went into the hunted thinking, all right, I'm going to try to make a Fang deck work or a Cinder deck work, and it's going to be great. I would say the majority of the time in the calling, I always ended up with Arachne, just because my main is Azuri, and so I felt relatively comfortable with assassin cards, and so when I ended up with assassin cards, I felt like I knew more about how to utilize the cards and how to what those play lines could potentially be, like, oh, flicking knives this, that way, do whatever. And yeah, so it's always very interesting how gravitation works, even when I didn't want to at all. I remember in Tampa, I was trying to play any of the Earth cards or Cilio a lot more. And again, more times than not, I somehow end up with Aurora, and I don't understand why. It's just like, oh, here's Runeblade cards and Lightning cards, and I don't have enough Wizard cards to do anything. Alrighty, let's move on.
When spoiler season comes out, like, we can always speculate. And here's the thing, like, sometimes what happened with this recent set with the high seas, I do think that the announcement of the new cards came out on not on LSS's desired schedule, right? I think the people that advertised the package wasn't supposed to release it at the time they did, and they released it a little early. So it was a little off. And LSS has this hype train they like to really like coax out for multiple months, right? They know, and it worked. We were all hyped for it. But I know when actually the spoiler season starts, I like to look at the different tools that potential heroes could get. Like, I'm still hype on Olympia, right? The set has gold. And regardless if Olympia is good or not, I can't help but think that even with this new set coming out, maybe there's some play there, right? But, I'll be keeping an eye out for that. But every hero like Mech, Necro, and Ranger, they have their combo cards, their kill cards, their staples, and it's kind of helpful to identify these as they come up. Or, hey, is this card really strong? I know right now, like February has a few of the cards that were announced, and some of these cards look remarkably strong. I also know that I'm interested in the expansion slot cards too, right? Because I play a lot of heroes, right? And it doesn't mean I'm good at any of these heroes. I just play a lot of them, right? But the expansion slot cards sometimes are so undervalued once a set is released and stabilized that I'll happen to pick them up, right? So I always look at, is this a red heavy deck like Hunted? This is a yellow heavy deck like the old Monarch set I heard about, or is this blue heavy like Mistville, right? Like, or is this equal parts everything, red, yellow, blue, right? Which in case maybe prismatic ley line, which Ning brought up to my attention.
One day it's gonna be big.
But they wouldn't print a card. They wouldn't print a card that's bad forever. At least, I mean, I say that, but there has been cards that they printed, and we're still waiting on them to be fully utilized, right? So, I mean, when spoiler season comes out, I do look at what the possible combination of cards are, just for, again, it's fun. I'm not going to go and hold it like close to my chest as this is the absolute truth, because as new information comes in, or as we work on it in theory, we know that when you play, it could be just hot garbage in your hand, right?
I just want to go back on prismatic ley lines real quick. So here's the tech, Gravy Bones people. All right. So prismatic ley lines, your next it's a 0 yellow, and your next red attack this turn gets +1, your next yellow gets +2, and your next blue gets +3. Go again. I can't help but notice that your little ally pirates are the two that have been spoiled are both specifically yellow. And also Gravy Bones does like his blue stuff, whatever that means. I feel like it'll be pretty easy to get 5 value out of prismatic ley lines with Gravy Bones. I don't know how that's going to work and how any of that works in general, but something about it, prismatic ley lines, it's going to be good.
I want to see the prismatic ley line Gravy Bones, bro. I need to see it when it comes out.
And here's the other thing. Apparently, it's based off of the cards that are already out. It feels like they're going to care about yellow cards in general. Yeah. And so therefore, it being naturally yellow, something's going to happen. I can feel it. I can feel it in my Gravy Bones,
All right. Anyway. So he's still hype on prismatic ley lines. We'll see if he's right. But
I digress.
No, it's a great segue, because as you get more experience into the set, even if you're a new player, it's always good to say, oh, this card might be good. Let's see how accurate I am when the set launches, right? And, you might be wrong 50% of the time, 60% of the time. But it's okay, because you're still having that thought. So every time you look at the next card, you can kind of sharpen that instinct a little bit more. I think you take an active approach to it as new cards come out to kind of have those thoughts, but know that these thoughts aren't all-encompassing, right? I mean, anything else you guys want to mention about getting ready for the new set as far as the months leading up to it?
No, I don't think so. I just like the hype train that it builds. Like it's got. I feel like I'm going through an addiction, where it's like I'm checking sources every single day, like maybe 2-3 times a day to see, did something new come out? Is our level up Discord chatting about anything? Maybe they just haven't heard anything yet. Let me check these other sources to see if it's been released here or there.
Couple misconceptions and myths we're going to address. When a new set comes out, you need to buy a full case to be competitive.
No, I don't think so. I feel like cases are just for funsies, for gambling. Ultimately, I think this is a sentiment shared by most people in the community, where it's like, buy your singles if you specifically want to be competitive. If you want to have fun, like me and my buddies, we'll buy a case between all of us so that we can keep playing sealed within our little group. And I think that's a good time. We're just being able to open packs together. But if you're talking about being competitive, that is definitely not the most fiscally responsible way to be competitive.
Something kind of worth mentioning, just for this set specifically, like if you're trying to be competitive in Nationals, High Seas comes out like the week prior, right? If you were trying to play like one of these new heroes, I think you probably would.
You would have to. Yeah.
You would have to be buying some product, or like reaching out to your local players to be like, like, hey, I need like this, and this, like ASAP. Yeah. Like I'm heading to like 5 days,
Right.
But I think you could still be competitive like on a different hero, right? Because I mean, bringing a new hero to like a big tournament it's kind of risky. Nobody knows anything. But
it sometimes works, but it's risky.
Yeah, it definitely can. Syndra won Hunted Calling, for her first thing. So
it definitely nobody knew how to deal with it.
Yeah. So like, it's definitely a viable strategy, but like for that tournament specifically, like you probably would need to buy some product just to like flesh it out.
Well, actually, while we're talking about the cost of product and stuff, we could say it now. If there will be a significant amount of price gouging at tournaments if you're trying to get these cards for a tournament.
Yeah.
And so if, let's say you have a tournament you're trying to get to, and it's more than just your friendly pre-release, right? And you absolutely need these cards for your deck to be viable, you will be paying a premium. Right. Now you can mitigate some of this because I know LSS has started changing a few of the rules where you can buy product the weekend that it releases. I know the Armory
Yeah.
deck for Gravy Bones is released the weekend of the pre-release, so that's a Necromancer set right there. Now, how competitive it will be, it's unknown. But anytime you speculate on a new set coming out and you say, okay, it might be potentially these heroes, as soon as those spoilers come out and it is announced that these heroes are these heroes, prices will skyrocket for no apparent reason, right? Other than speculation, hype. And so once these prices get up here, you're going to be paying a premium. So if that's the case, you could either do two things. When spoiler season happens, usually prices will either fall down. The majority of it will fall down. I think there was a lot of speculation on the recent set of Hunted with Black Tech Whisperers, where they were thinking these boots will be really good, and they started going up in price, and you find out, oh, it might not be what you need for this set, and so the price kind of fell down. Or there might be a second surge. The deck needs to have these cards to be absolutely viable, right? And then it'll skyrocket a second time. So it's one of those things. If you're going to get on the hype train, you're going to be paying a premium. For the recent one, Call to the Grave was a $2 card. Maybe last year, it was around $10. It was around $20, and then all of a sudden it's now a $40 card, right? And that's because everyone's specking. It's a card that Necromancer, Gravy Bones specifically, wants to use, right? So that's the pricing thing. If you're trying to build a tournament worthy deck that uses a lot of these new cards, as Trevor says, put it out, put the APB out for your locals. Right, try to get them borrowed, because if you go, you're going to be paying a premium price because of supply and demand.
All right. And I mean, also, there's just nothing wrong with playing like an old hero, right? Like for a tournament, like if it was doing well before, like nobody truly knows like how the CC is going to shake out. So like if you're comfortable with a hero, like
Which brings us up to myth number 2: older heroes become irrelevant.
Oh man, segue.
Irrelevant. Yeah, look at that segue. That was probably unintentional. It's like we've been doing this for years.
Yeah.
So, what do you think? Older heroes become irrelevant.
Irrelevant?
Thank you.
I mean, I think generally speaking, whoever's been winning will still continue to win until something changes. But even if the meta slightly changes, I feel like generally speaking, old heroes who have been consistently winning will still win some. They were strong for a reason. So now if you're saying some other older heroes become irrelevant, like Olympia, who disappeared on the Warrior page when they were showcasing Warriors.
LSS did my boys dirty. Anyways, go ahead.
But like, I'm at some point they created the hero for a reason. I'm sure someday, some way, somehow, cards are going to come out, and then it'll be a resurgence of it. So
yeah, Irrelevant's pretty strong. Like they might not be a tier 1 deck, but like I mean, you can still. I mean, I don't know. Like I think people were saying like Warriors like pretty bad for a while, but like Dory got like 3rd or 4th place in the Battle Hardener Calling. I forget, in San Paulo.
Fang won a major tournament.
Yeah, true.
So
yeah, but I mean, he was new here. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like Irrelevant that's just like strong wording. Like I feel like they can still be like viable, right? They might not be like the tier 1 deck because I mean a whole new set of cards came in. Like you can't really expect nothing to change. Like I don't think people would want that, right?
Hey, just play well for it.
And there is always this, always, just because people are playing a lot of the same hero doesn't mean that the hero's super strong. Usually what I see is when heroes come out, everyone's on the hype train for this hero, regardless if it's Arachne slipped through the crack, Arachne with multiple personalities, Syndra or Fang. Like you'll see. Like I know when Hunted came out, a lot of people were playing Arachne multiple personalities. I don't remember his name, guys.
Marionette.
Thank you.
Mario.
Mario, thank you. And
Yeah.
Syndra. And people were still trying to, like the warrior mains or the warrior lovers, we were really trying to work on Fang. But it's kind of like you'll see most of these heroes start performing, and then Aurora had the armory deck, and you've seen her running around everywhere. She's a really consistent, high-powered deck. So it doesn't mean that these older heroes are weaker. Sometimes there is power creep, like the original heroes like Rhinar and Bravo. Do have an issue keeping up with the pace of the current game. They won't ever be not important again. Their time will come, right? As we've seen with Vincent. I mean, my goodness, he was a non-played hero until Rosette, and all of a sudden he took off an LL. So I'm sorry, not Vincent, Viserai.
Viserai. Yeah. I feel like Kano is the best use case in this example. He's always, some people play him, but mostly not. Everybody meta changes, and then when the meta changes up to a certain point, Kano kind of comes out of nowhere. He takes some LL points. Everybody's now scared of Kano, so then they start building against him. But then because people they have to build against him and therefore wizards, the meta kind of shifts to the point that Kano starts to not win, and then that kind of fizzles out, and then it's just always this cycle. And so with Kano, I feel like is a great example of older heroes becoming relevant. Is very much a myth where it's just seasonal is I think the best way to put it.
I think that's true, and very accurate.
The Kano season, yeah,
it's vibe based.
Yeah. And as new sets come out and the hype train goes up, and then sometimes there's natural predators that are born from these new heroes, or some older heroes naturally prey on the new heroes. So there's always going to be this ebb and flow. Hey, see, high seas. Anyways, here all night. But this is a thing that does happen. So I don't think older heroes become non-important. A couple of follow-up tips is, if you're trying to get competitive, you're trying to take home more wins and losses in the pre-release or tournaments you're going to, I would tend to read every card in the set just to become familiar with it. And LSS has been doing a great job of putting it out on their YouTube page. The Blitz decks fight each other, so you kind of see how the mechanics play with each of these new heroes. Runaways Podcast has a Discord that uses simulators to practice draft practice or whatnot. Trevor, do you use those? Have you heard about them?
I've used it a few times. I need to practice draft more because I usually don't. I just do the ones that armories and stuff.
Yeah.
Winged it if I make it. Yeah, I was very unprepared day 2 in the Hunted calling. I didn't draft a single time before it.
That's fun.
But you and your local testing partner, Evan, you guys went back and picked the best of pack, right? And that was how you practiced, because you
we did do that. Yeah, that was fun. We got Andrew Lorenz and Evan and I. Evan bought a box. We went up to the room and we just went through every pack, and we were just what's the pack one pick one you would do, which is a pretty good exercise where you treat it as if is the first pack you see in a draft pod, and then you just say what's the best here, and then kind of look at the other cards, see what might come around to you. But it's a good tool to there's obviously banger cards where you're obviously take this one, but there's ones where it's more nuanced, and you're this is the card that gives me the most options later on.
Yeah, I know when the high seas and we get more cards come out, we'll actually do another podcast about the cards and the spoilers and ranking them. I think that'd be kind of fun to put our thoughts to each of these cards.
Yeah. Sounds like I will never go another pre-release without knowing the cards.
Well, I was feeling
yeah, for real.
It's kind of funny. So I know Ning might not be able to hit that refresh button so fast as the new cards pop up, but me and Trevor are going to have thoughts, right? And then maybe Ning could be the guy that comes in and says, "Oh, I have no clue what I'm looking at, but my gut feeling says this is pretty strong," and then me and Trevor could laugh at him or agree with him, right? Yeah. So it might be something we could do, right?
It's a blue block 3. It's super strong. What are you talking about?
Yeah, he's cooking. He gets it.
So I know preparing for a new set means more than cracking packs. If that's the way you want to go, as Ning always says, it's your gambling addiction. That's great. You can trade for it, you can buy singles, but it's really about understanding the meta shift, right? And how this new set's coming out, it's going to impact everything. And the synergies within the card pool that's, being spoiled or leading up to the pre-release, right? Uh, I would caution any new players not to jump so readily on the hype train when cards are expensive, because you just don't know if it's going to stay that price. Um, and it's always that thing where you could see it, you really want to get into it, but like it's hard for me to recommend to a new player that's not really ever gotten to Fab before, to buy 3 Calls to the Graves because they're really interested in Necromancer, right? That's just a hard call, right? There's so many other staples that could probably fill out Necromancer's deck than Call to the Grave. In that case, you might be best to work with the cards you have and fill out after the set comes out with older cards that could really enhance the deck. Right? Do you guys kind of agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, it's. I think it's one of those things where, like, for example, CNC Command and Conquer, obviously a huge staple, 3 of and decks that use it. But unfortunately, it is very prohibitively expensive when you are starting out. There are a decent nowadays. There are a handful of significantly cheaper alternatives to use in your deck. And then if you're mostly playing in an armory anyway, generally speaking, people are okay with you proxying them if you really want to know how it feels to play, CNC proper. But if you are one of those people who are like, oh, I don't like proxying, I just like to play with the cards that I have, I don't necessarily remember all the cards that exist to replace CNC specifically. But I do know there's like 3 or 4 cards that are rares.
Wreck Havoc.
Yeah. Like Wreck Havoc. Or Rosetta had those 1-for-5 ones that turned the arsenal around, and those ones. It's like there's always cheaper alternatives. And then worst case scenario, just proxy them. It's not a big deal.
Yeah, for armories, like people will be fine. And we've had players who, don't own a place as CNCs and they go play a tournament, and then locals who aren't going there just lend them, right?
Yep.
So like, I mean, if you get into your community, like you can definitely have some options there. It's an unfortunate thing, honestly, like to spend that much on like staples like that.
Just a tough part of the game. Tournament legal.
Yeah. But
and there's always options. Like I know with last day, if you're not really into a specific hero and you just want to play a new hero that's coming out, you can actually wait until the dust settles and pick the more unpopular one. Because in every set, when they launch 3 new heroes, it's pick 2 to get popular and the third one's left behind. Redheaded Stepchild. And we'll use Hunted, for example. Syndra and Mario was people's favorite, and I felt like Fang kind of got left behind, but if you look at Fang's cards, he's pretty economical to build. And if you're really interested in Warrior and that whole play style, the Warrior cards, like Fang uses most of the cards in the Hunted more than other Warrior cards. Now there are other Warrior cards that can really make him more powerful, but really you could get away with the Hunted cards, especially the front pumps, the buffs that you do to your attack before you swing with your weapon, with his reactions at the end, which you could do during the actual reaction step. So you get that hero vibe with that too. So you can just wait and see, and then with all your pre-release goodness, trade out, right? But do you know that pre-release prices are inflated? Generally speaking, if it's you guys could, for the new players that don't really know this, Marvels that are generic, that are 3-block, either blue or high power with text on hits.
Majestics.
Damn, I did it again, didn't I?
Oh man.
I was thinking you're saying trade out the cards, Yeah. And you mentioned Marvels. I was like, yeah, that makes sense. And then you started talking about these things. I'm like, oh no, he means Majestics, doesn't he?
Again. Well, that's okay. I'll get that right one day. But yeah, or like Ning was saying, trade out your Marvels, right? But you have trade bait with the class you're not playing. If you really want to keep your prices low, go to pre-release, see how you like the new sets, play the different heroes, and then trade during the pre-release. And at that point, don't really worry about the 2 other characters and really focus on your one to get your deck ready, right? But that's different per person.
Yeah, I would say one thing though, like if you're gonna trade during pre-release, it can be like kind of sketchy a little bit because like everything is so inflated. So
It's
I
also
wouldn't
very
do-
volatile.
I wouldn't do like cash, you know. I would do like 1-for-1, right? Like if you were like during Rosetta, you know, I was into Earth, and then I was just kind of like trading lightning stuff for like any Earth
Right.
cards, right?
Right,
Just because
right,
that's
right.
what I want to play, and it's locals, you know. So I'm not trying to like get
Yeah.
one over on them. Like, you know,
Yeah.
it's all good fun if, you know, you lose a few bucks here or there.
I would not use cash to buy these cards you might need. I would try to trade the cards you don't need. So thank you for the
Yeah.
clarification. All right. As we wrap up this podcast, anything else you guys want to add before we close it out?
No, I think it's just new sets are always very hype. It's always a good time. Speculation or just waiting for the new big thing, seeing how the meta shifts. It's always very exciting, very fun. So yeah, definitely looking forward to it.
Yeah, no, it's definitely a good time. I think community is great. So if you are thinking about coming out, you should go out now. But if you want to wait, it's probably fine too.
And then also, you know, hopefully new heroes come out. They don't need Tunic, so you don't have to worry about that anymore. It's just praying, just hoping.
The only Tunic you guys need to worry about is the Tunic counter gamers right here, right?
That's right.
So for the
Nice.
listeners, how do you prepare for a new Fab set? If you got a ritual, you got a favorite spoiler memory, throw it down in the comments. You know, the new set is coming. Are you ready to meet on the battlefield or get left behind in the shuffle? And until next time, remember, every turn is a decision, every decision is a story, and don't forget your damn Tunic counter.